Hi, Blue Demons. My name is Courtney James. I use she, her, and her pronouns, and I serve as the Director of Student Involvement here at DePaul. Welcome to our session for today. We are, this afternoon, we've got a panel. I'm just so excited. I'm tripping over my words already. A panel discussion about self-care during Chicago winters. Last fall quarter of 2022, we started doing these sessions as a means to just have some discussions about self-care during different times of the year. We did one around the election time, since, the 2020 election had some heightened stress with it. We did one around the holidays. As we were thinking about heading into this winter and knowing in particular that we're bringing so many students back to campus, I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to gather together to talk about self-care during Chicago winter. So before we get started, I'm going to have all of our panelists introduce themselves. And Leslie, if it's okay, I'm going to start with you.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leslie Watland. I also use she, hers pronouns, and I work as an assistant dean in the Office of the Dean of Students here at DePaul University. Very quick spiel about our office. If you are a student who's ever experiencing a personal crisis, medical concern, mental health related concern, and you're finding that it's really impacting your experience here at DePaul University, maybe you're having an economic crisis and you want to get connected to DePaul and community resources, you can always connect with folks in our office. We'd be glad to work with you and help with you.
Great, thanks for that, Leslie. Mary Kate, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, hi, I'm Mary Kate. I am Assistant Director of Fitness over at the Ray Campus Recreation. So I oversee like group fitness and all that stuff.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Mary Kate. And for those of you, who may have seen some of our panels before, Mary Kate is new to DePaul. So we're so excited to have you as part of our Blue Demon family here. So Sarah, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sarah Heidberger. I am Sexual and Relationship Violence Prevention Specialist at Health and Promotion Wellness Office. It's really lengthy, my title and office name. So Health and Promotion and Wellness Office, we do a variety of things that we provide holistic care for students to find resources for any emotional support needs, any physical needs, or in my particularly, my area of sexual relationship violence prevention, I am actually a confidential advisor for any students who experience sexual violence in the past or current, any survivor, they can come talk to me in a confidential manner. Also, we provide a lot of resources and support for people who are trying to be in the recovery process or serve a curiosity or have any questions about drug alcohol use. So really, that's what we really focus. But I'm really glad to be here to share any good idea and just have a good conversation about self-care.
Great. Thanks for that, Sarah. So for those of you who may be new to a panel experience, through OSI or through any of our online platforms, you can ask questions throughout today's session. So questions, comments, if you agree with something, if you want to hear more, if you're watching live and you're watching today, Monday, January 10th at 3:00, you can put those in the comments and we'll see them. But the great part about this software as well is if you're watching the video on demand and you have a question for any of us, you can also post it there and we'll get a notification and we'll get back with you as well. You can also reach out to us via email at any point if you have questions afterwards. But as we get started here, I wanted, and it might sound a little bit silly, but I wanted us to start off by talking a little bit about experiences with Chicago winters and what makes them so unique. I don't know from our panelists who's from Chicago, but there's I think a few things that distinctly make Chicago winters a little bit different. So curious to hear from you all, from either your experiences or what you've heard, what some of those defining characteristics are.
Well, I may share maybe somebody from outside of Chicago experience. I was definitely not prepared to experience this much of coldness because I'm from actually Tokyo, Japan, and we get snow, but we don't get this cold. But I've been in different city in the States too, but I'm very amazed how Chicago people actually stay active during the winter too. There's so many creative way that people can actually go still outside. I still see people running and biking in the snow and ices, but I think I also started to developing more tolerance for the coldness too, and recognizing like what to wear, what kind of protection I need to be active outside. And also there's so many outdoor activities still exist in Chicago during the winter time. So yeah, I feel like those are very unique because in other city, sometimes they shut down as soon as it gets this cold and nothing is available. So I am very amazed by resilience of Chicago people during the cold winter.
Yeah, Sarah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like the cold, and the other thing, particularly downtown, is the wind. Nobody talks about the wind. Like
No.
the Chicago has the reputation of the windy city for a lot of different reasons, and one of them is that wind that's going to hit you, and like it hits you in a very, very different way than I think any other part of the country that I've ever lived in. But I think the other thing, Sarah, that you talk about is the fact that like Chicago winters, Chicago doesn't slow down. Like it takes a lot for the university to slow down, for the city to slow down. I don't know if everybody knows this, but there will be at some point this winter a huge social media push that people will say it got so cold in Chicago that they lit the L tracks on fire. Well, that's actually something we do every single year in Chicago. It's something that they literally heat the L tracks because it gets so cold, but the trains will continue to run.
Mm-hmm.
Everything will continue to function. I've been at DePaul now for 6 years. And in my 6 years outside of the pandemic, the only time the university ever closed was when it was negative 27.
Mm-hmm.
Every other time, it was like business as usual. Right. It was, and obviously the pandemic was the rare exception, but it is a very, very distinct experience because like I used to live in Oklahoma, and I will never forget one year they canceled school at the threat of snow, and it didn't even snow. And like here, blizzard, anything that life will outside of it will seemingly everything will appear to be going on as normal. Leslie, Mary Kate, any other thoughts you think that make Chicago winters pretty distinct?
I think Chicago weather in general is this way, but you really feel it in the winter. The weather can change so quickly, even during the same day. So you don't have to just check the weather for what temperature it is right now before you leave the house for the day. You want to know what the whole day's forecast is going to be because it can change in an instant. I also like Sarah talking about, Chicago people have this comfort with the cold after being here. You get used to it. You get desensitized. I feel like you can always tell Chicagoans or Midwestern folks during the winter because they're either the people who are dramatically underdressed for the weather because they have such a great tolerance for it, or they're the folks who are like professionally dressed for the winter. Like they know that this happens every year. They have the nicest winter coats and boots, all the time. But I think that's, easy ways to see if you're a Chicagoan is how someone is dressed. If they either look like it's, 50 degrees warmer, they might be a Midwestern person, or if they have like professional snow gear, they're probably a Midwest person. And again, there's so many fun things to do here in Chicago, especially if you're someone who does have a little bit of tolerance for being outside despite the cold.
Yeah, and I feel like I just had a break from the winter because I was just living in California for the past few years. So when I would like tell people out there about the winters out here, they would be like, you don't get to stay home and like just have a cup of like hot cocoa. And I'm like, no, you still have to go out. So I think that was always a big shock to them. And I feel like the falling ice is always something that's so unique to like around this area because it's like, you don't even, like if you live in California, you're not thinking of ice falling from the sky from buildings. So I think that's pretty unique.
Yeah, especially with the skyscrapers. When I think going with the ice, the other thing I would say that we haven't mentioned yet is the change in how often the sun is out, right? Like Obviously, we all know winter days are shorter. So we're seeing that right now, right? I think the sun's setting around 4:30, 5 o'clock, if we're lucky. So like, and it just feels like it keeps getting earlier and earlier. But I think with that, it feels like it also gets more dangerous to walk, especially when black ice starts to appear. So like now you're not only worried about staying cold, you're also worried about literally where are you going to step, right? Like, because you don't want to be that person that like biffs it and falls and drops everything, because I have been that person and turtled it a little bit on a street side in the city of Chicago. But you know, Chicago's still a great place to live, right? Despite all of this. But you know, what I want us to shift gears here a little bit. I do think we've talked a little bit about like Chicagoans and their resiliency, but I want us to talk a little bit about techniques, like techniques that actual things that people should think about to prepare for their self-care during Chicago winter, or, you know, just to get ready. And one of the things that I oftentimes, I think about just particularly with students and their experience is this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you've never seen this before, what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is it is a laddered model of what you need in order to thrive in your environment. So in looking at this is, you know, I literally Googled Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I've got a very basic one here. But what it says is your physiological needs met. You need air, water, food, shelter, sleep, all of those different topics. Then safety, then love and belonging, then esteem, and then, you know, you can finally reach that self-actualization moment. And part of what happens, I believe, in the winter is our physiological needs and our safety needs and love are all put into jeopardy, right? Our physiological needs in terms of, we're talking a lot about being cold, but like your physical being changes in a Chicago winter. So that's why it's so important to stay warm. Then your safety needs, you know, physically, we're talking about things like falling ice and slipping. That's important. Like you need to physically stay safe. And then on top of all of this, that sense of love and belonging, it is harder to go outside, right? Like we're not doing outdoor events in the same way that we did in the fall when it was, you know, 80 degrees and sunny. So it's harder it is physically harder to feel all of these things because of the environment that Chicago has. So, you know, it really is. It's not just something that we say like, oh, you know, Chicago winters are tough. No, Chicago's winters are tough because it physically changes what we still need the same things as a human being, but our environment cannot give it to us. So like I said, I wanted us to spend some time talking a little bit about some strategies that, you know, some of our panelists might have to recommend to, you know, viewers about how they can best prepare for a Chicago winter and how they can be sure to take care of themselves. So not sure if there's anybody that's like, ooh, let me start here.
I do have something while it's on top of my head, but because you said, you know, the days are shorter and getting outside and getting vitamin D is like so important for our health and feeling good. So I think it's harder to do that when it's cold and we have less time to be able to do it. So I always try to like make a little walk in my day, even if it is like just so scary to go outside because it's so cold. I still try to like bundle up, go down to Walgreens, get a bag of candy as like a little treat, and then walk back just to ensure that I'm getting some of that vitamin D in all the nature and stuff.
That's great. And I'm going to interject here because I have a feeling somebody's going to talk about this, but we actually have a question from one of our viewers here. Nicole asked, can you talk about what to wear and where to get them? This is my first Chicago winter. So any suggestions?
A long coat.
A long coat.
Yes.
Okay, that's important because I think that's something that people oftentimes don't think about. So when you're wearing a coat, most coats are made to stop like at your waist, a little bit past your waist. The thing that people don't realize is a coat that goes over your butt, for like mid thigh, mid knee. I'm taller, so it always ends up being mid thigh for me. But a long coat that goes that long makes a huge difference. I would also say a coat with a hood, right?
Yep.
Yep. It's because you're going to want a bundle. You're going to have the scarf. You're going to have your mask on. Then you're going to have a scarf on. Then you're going to have a hat. And then you're going to have a hood. So if you're going to get one, I bought one coat 4 years ago and I've worn the same coat every year ever since. But I think a good coat and, brand wise, I mean, you'll see 1,000 different brands, right? Like my coat is from Columbia, honestly, because it was a little bit more cost effective for me than some of the big name ones. But that's just but I've also gotten great coats at like JCPenney or Sears. Well, Sears isn't a thing anymore, but you know what I mean, right? Like, but yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any suggestions for coat wise, what people should look for.
Yeah, I don't know any specific brand neither because it's really up to your aesthetics and how do you want to look, right? But for me, more warmth than aesthetic. Like I literally look like a little Eskimo with little fur around my face, but I don't care because
Right.
It is more important to be warm than looking cool and chic. You can have a chic coat for sure too, but that's yeah, and I would say if you're trying to buy a really good jacket to go with, have a really nice winter boots too. That like I don't really recommend wearing Uggs and all those like fashionable one. It's gonna soak into the snow and it will be damaged by salt so badly so quick. Just have a really good winter boots that has a waterproof and good protection. No, it may not look like the prettiest one in the fashionable one, but it's better to have a really strong boots that you're not going to slip on the ice.
Yeah. For one of the things I oftentimes think about is like, if you ever read anything about staying warm, there's two parts of your body that you have to keep warm to keep everything else warm. It's your core and it's your feet, right? You've got to make sure your feet are dry. So like Sarah said, that's really critical, getting those waterproof boots. And then keeping your core warm so that everything else stays warm. Like hats are important, scarves, all of that are important as well. But honestly, like you can get like a lot of that stuff, like the dollar accessories at Old Navy work out wonderfully. The other thing I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, our colleagues in the Office of Multicultural Student Success also actually have a warming closet. So if you're sitting here and you're like, my bank account is really struggling, but I'm worried about how I'm gonna keep warm this summer. OMS has got a warming closet that you can go and get hats and gloves and coats. And I just dropped a couple off, and they're good coats because they're coming from Chicagoans. A lot of them are that have closets full of coats. So I would also put a plug in. If you have other coats that you are no longer using, or maybe your body shape has changed during the pandemic, your colleagues and peers could find a use for them. So you could just bring them to the first floor of the student center, and they'll be put to good use there. But any other things to think about, like items? I'll put the question back up here in case. What to wear, where to get it, anything else to think about or no?
I think just layer, and keep in mind what activities are you going to do for the day? How long are you going to be out? Is the weather going to change? But as much as possible, wear outfits with as many layers as possible. You can always take something off, but if you're outside or commuting and miserable, you're not going to want to run into a store in the middle of your day to try and buy something to help you feel like you can keep your fingers and toes attached to your body. So bring those extra layers with you, even if you think you won't need them.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And I would also say, think about whether you like gloves or mittens. I personally think mittens are nice. Like you can make a fist and you can like warm your hand in. That's oftentimes helpful for me, but a little bit of it is preference, right? But something else to think. Make sure I put a pack in every coat, right? A set of gloves in every coat. Like it'll just make your lives a little bit easier. But other techniques. So we talked a little bit about clothes. What are some other techniques that you've seen be effective for folks as they're heading into Chicago winters?
Well, I would touch on a little bit maybe on the relationship and how you keep that social life life little active, right? Because again, like relationship, my area of specialty, and I really care for it. I think this time is difficult for sure to keep the life going and hang out because there's not much outdoor activity maybe you can do, or people may feel like, no, I don't want to go out because it's too cold. So it is easy to just cooped up in their room and be alone. So one thing though, I feel like it came out from the pandemic, little nice thing about it is this, like all the Zoom and other things that are available now, right? And a couple years ago, if there's a heavy snow, we were stuck at home and not seeing anybody for a week. That was a thing, but now we can really ring up with friends, have a chat or talk over. So really be mindful about how to enrich the relationship that you already have with the friends and family already. I think that's always good to think about. And it doesn't mean that you have to have brand new relationship and explore, but maybe a little be more focused on what you have already, right? Because it is already overwhelming. It's cold, you're trying to cope. So let's see what you have already right in front of you, even your roommate. Kind of figure out like a fun routine that you guys can do safely and have fun. And it's kind of go with like a lot of going out and drinking and all that too. Again, when the winter hits really cold, because being outside and having fun gets like less likely happening. So we tend to go to bar or restaurant, have a cup of drink because it's going to keep us warm too. But also think the way that you don't have to have a drink to have that much of fun as well. Like you can think of more warm, different place you can go. Like you can go to a museum, you can go to, other exhibit that's happening in the city. Those things are happening throughout the year, right? So it doesn't always have to be going out in a bar or keep us warm through beer. Maybe think about activities that you can do without those things, and also enrich into your friendship and things like that. I think it will be really good to continue through the winter.
I think, planning stuff to do during the day in advance can be helpful to have something to look forward to. You can check the weather to see if it's a really freezing cold week. Maybe you're going to pick one of the warmer days to go outside and go to a museum or go to an activity with a friend. Maybe you're going to try and do stuff during the day when it might be a little warmer instead of waiting until 11 o'clock at night, right? Not saying you can't also go out late at night if you really want to on different occasions, but I think it makes it easier to make the most fulfilling decisions if you feel like that's not your only social outlet, right? And there's so many different discounts and deals in terms of going to museums. So I know there's a Demon discount page that links a lot of different museum discounts that you get as a DePaul student that you can go to for free or a heavily discounted rate. There's also some different websites about free museum days in the city of Chicago for 2022. So if you're like, I really want to go to the Field Museum for free, or I want to go to the planetarium or the aquarium on a really cold day and spend a couple hours with friends, but in a place that feels safer, but also I got to do something fun. Those are some great days you can target in on in order to, go for free. I also really love going to places like the Garfield Park Conservatory because it is so warm there, right? They've got hundreds, if not thousands and thousands, well, they do certainly have thousands of tropical plants there. So they have to keep that place toasty and warm and humid. And it's almost like a vacation, right? Maybe just for an hour at a time. But that's another free place that you can go in the city of Chicago. But I think giving yourself fun stuff to look forward to. So even if you know that you're going to be cooped up with Netflix or your preferred streaming service for a couple of days, knowing that you've got another outing with friends or roommates, or even by yourself, right? Sometimes you want to take yourself out for a date, go by yourself to a museum, get your favorite food. That can be fun too. But giving yourself something to look forward to can just be so good for your heart and your mind.
And even like the Lincoln Park Zoo, they're open all the time, and you don't have to go around outside exhibit. There's so many inside exhibit. I love the Mermal area and African area, especially. Again, it's so warm, and you can still have fun in there. And they have mini conservatory right next to the Lincoln Park Zoo too. That's also super warm. So yeah, there's so many area that's close to us that you can just hop on the bus for a couple minutes, and here you go. You have a warm spot to hang out and still have fun.
Yeah, those anchors I think are really so important because it not only gives you, I think, fulfillment that day, but it also like creates that anticipatory moment of like you're looking forward to something, right? Like for a week. And like it really, and Leslie, I think you touched on this a little bit. Like when you have nothing, you grasp for anything, right? And like I think Sarah's talking a little bit about like that sometimes where, risky or problematic behavior can come up too. Like you might do something that you normally wouldn't say yes to, but like if you can say, I'm going to go see the penguins at the Shed Aquarium, which PS, I love the penguins at Shed Aquarium. Like that should absolutely be on your list. They are so cute. Wellington is my favorite. I'm a super fan, but like, if you have those things, like it's not only going to sustain you that day, but it also gives you that opportunity leading up to it. So I really can't speak highly enough about all of that. I think one of the other things that's like interesting, not only about Chicago winters, but it's Chicago winters in tandem with the new year. And like how many messages has everyone do we see societally about like new year, new you? And like, listen, people, we made it through the pandemic. Like, well, not always, like we're still in the pandemic, but we've made it this far. And like, I think that's one of the challenges of like, one, the new year in general, two, living through a pandemic, and three, now being in the Chicago winter is like, everybody is putting their best foot forward on social media. And they are like, a lot of folks are like putting it out there that they've got their lives together. And, this concept of like new year, new you. And like,
could you say that again?
Siri doesn't even like it. Siri's even like, what are you like? That's crazy. So like, but I think like it's this other part of this that like a technique or like something for you to like think about and reflect is like, and it's sometimes hard, but like you don't have to buy into that, right? Like you can make baby strides. Like it doesn't have to be like 2022 new me, right? Like it can be 2022 and I'm working on a better version of me, and it's going to be baby steps because I know my environment is different. I know it's cold. I know there's less sunlight. I know I'm worried about these other things. So I think that's one of the other things to think about too, is like it doesn't have to be this like hit the ground running type of mentality. It can be baby steps. So I always think it's just important to share that too.
I definitely agree with you, Courtney. Those expectation from the society that like, okay, we're all get this and we're gonna be so great this year. But when you do the goal setting, if you actually want to do the goal setting, that's also choices. You don't have to. It's important that you are staying true to your authentic self and also being realistic, right? Because you can dream big, and I would not say that you shouldn't dream big. You can, but at the same time, really sit back and assess your current situation, emotional status, your physical capacity, and other circumstances, what's going on in the school and your work and life and everything. And really ask yourself that, is this really realistic for me? Because at the end, if you set too much expectation for yourself, you're setting up yourself for failure, right? Then we're already talking about winter's gonna be hard. So why would you put yourself in more harder situation that you're gonna feel bad about yourself? So maybe it is more like, if you're going to set the goal, maybe set the goal that's going to be kind to yourself. Maybe like my goal is to literally be kind to myself, or listen to my body needs, or I'm gonna be truthful for my social needs or needing for support, or I'm gonna set the goal to ask for help or something, right? It doesn't have to be that I'm gonna do this and accomplish this alone. Like, it's okay that within that achieving the goals, there is a step of reaching out to support and talking to so and so, or even give myself time to relax. I think all of us often forget that. Like, give yourself permission to relax, give yourself time to not to do anything. It's totally fine, and it's harder than you think. So I think it's really a good goal to achieve and have a self-compassion to yourself throughout the winter.
That's great. So I wanted us to, as we head towards our tail end of our session here, before I've got one more question. We have another question that just came in from Nicole. So with the cold winter and the new variant, what do you suggest we do with regards to doing things while staying as safe and healthy as we can? It's a great question. Anybody want to start with it?
I think when it comes to COVID-19 practices and safety, so much of it is a personal decision, right? About what level of risk feels safe and appropriate for you or your loved ones. So there isn't a one size fits all answer, but some general recommendations. One is to get tested frequently, especially if you think that you've gone to an event or had an experience where you might have been in contact with somebody who was COVID-19 positive. Maybe you went to a museum or you went someplace where there were unknown people, or you're part of a class where you have to get close to each other and you want to get tested before you go home and see family, or you see a friend who might be at risk for COVID. Those are definitely great things to do. I think making sure that you're prioritizing activities that you can be outside. If you do need to be inside for activities, making sure that you're wearing a mask, and a high quality mask. So I think increasingly we're really encouraging students to use like the KN95 masks or the N95 masks, or it could be 94, I could be getting it wrong, but I know that we're really encouraging students to think about using those as much as possible, double masking if needed, things like that. And being really mindful and intentional about sharing with other students or friends that you're hanging out with what your exposure recently has looked like, so everyone can make good decisions about whether or not they feel comfortable sitting in a room watching movies together with 5 other people, right? Knowing what everybody's exposure has looked like. I think a lot of the things that HPW teaches about consent for other types of interpersonal connections, we should borrow and steal that for how we engage with folks around COVID-19, right? Being really clear about our risks, being clear about our protective measures, asking people about theirs, and making decisions that are best for us.
Yeah, Leslie, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like I think really like, the biggest thing that I always think about is like follow the science, right? Trust the science. Like we know so much more about the virus, and granted not as much about this variant, but we do know a lot more big picture. And like, those preventative measures, like making sure that you have gotten your vaccine, you've gotten your booster, you're wearing that N95, KN95. Like it's interesting. I was talking with a colleague about this the other day. We don't talk nearly as much about social distancing as we did early on, but I still find myself like, I go to basketball games at Wintrust, but I sit 25 feet away from the nearest person, right? So like there are still environments that I believe you can go to safely. It's just being cognizant of like, what does that look like? And if you are, with friends, like I think Leslie's tip about getting tested is great. But also like knowing who it is, right? Like, and I think if you, particularly I think about student organizations, I personally, would recommend to student orgs this year, like if you're part of a larger organization, might be the year that like keep those big meetings virtual, right? Like if you have 60, 70, 80 members, like might be the year to keep doing that virtually. And maybe your exec team could meet if it's like 5 to 8 and spread out, right? Spread out, wear those good masks. And I think we can all stay safe together. Like it's just going to require a different level of cognizance about like what we're doing and how we're acting as we head into this. So keep those questions coming if anybody has any more that they'd like for us to touch on, because we're going to move into our last part of our panel here, where we're going to talk a little bit about on-campus resources. So Mary Kate, I know, there's a lot of things going on in the Ray, and I think, Campus Rec in particular is doing a really great job of, doing exactly what we're talking about here, like having indoor activities in a safe way. So, maybe we can start with you, talk a little bit about what's happening at the Ray.
Yeah, so my primary area is group fitness. So that's like what I oversee, and that, we have to like wear masks, and it's all vaccinated over here now as well. So that's pretty cool. But those classes are free for you to join. You just got to sign up. Right now we're at a limited capacity just because of the surge and everything. So, but those are a great way that you can get that socialization that we sometimes lack in the winter. And it's a great way also, especially if you take like the yoga classes, because I mean, I do it all the time. I'm doing it right now. But like in the winter, we like hunch up and like those muscles get so tense. So like taking a yoga class where you can just like release that and then get a little meditation in there as well is always much needed. But we also have like, we're starting Friday Fun Days, which is you can come into the rec during the day and it's like volleyball, basketball, and you don't have to sign up. You can just come in, meet some people, play some games, which is always really fun. I think it's always just a nice way to like make your day better is just to play. That's always been like just to like laugh and stuff. I think that helps like our mental health and just to feel like a child sometimes. So I think those are some things that we offer here that can help you in the winter time and really all the time, but especially in the winter, it helps to get that socialization and get a little bit of movement going on.
Great. Sarah, Leslie, resources to share with our students that may be watching?
I think, some of the resources I'm thinking of are great resources for students who maybe are feeling a little bit overwhelmed or feeling like they need support beyond just kind of what we would expect some normal feelings of sadness or frustration around the weather, feeling isolated. But if you're someone who's feeling a little bit anxious or depressed or having some other, significant feelings that are starting to impact your activities of daily living, you doing the regular things that used to bring you joy, definitely we would encourage you to reach out to my office, the Office of the Dean of Students, as well as Sarah's office, the Office of Health Promotion and Wellness. We also do have university counseling services available for students. I know that they are providing some appointments via Zoom for students currently, as well as our My Student Support Program app. So this is a really cool new thing for this year. It's a free app for students. You can download it on your phone, and you can contact a counselor, confidential counselor care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, available for you as a DePaul student. You can connect with them over the phone or via text message if that's more comfortable, but you can go there at that link to learn more about how to download that application. But if you're looking for some confidential support, you want to get some, support in the moment, you want to connect with somebody, you want to get connected to other resources, definitely reaching out to any of our offices is a good resource. But do download that MySSP. And even if you don't think you're going to use it, it's also a great resource for you to have if you need to help a friend, another DePaul student who's maybe in crisis or really struggling. So I think it's good for you to have it downloaded and available just in case you ever need it in general.
Yeah, I agree that for MySSP, honestly, download it because it is not only a chat and call app. It has a lot of good articles about self-care, mental health care, and physical care. And if you have like wonder about like, what am I feeling? Is this something? Like there's something that you can do on a research basis, right? Like you can search for like, is there any article about this? And you can read something about it. So you don't have to utilize it as a place to talk or find somebody to talk, but you can use it as your information resources too. And for HPW, as like Leslie already explained, we do provide individual support for students. So, any type of concern related to relationship issue, drug, alcohol issues, or sometimes people do come in just because they were just stressed out and I don't know what to do, right? And I don't know where to go. I don't know who to ask help. It's all right. Come and talk to us. We usually can point out on like where to go, depends on what you're struggling with, or connect you to maybe even outside of campus resources if that's what you're looking for. And we have peer health educator team from the HPW team going around doing the workshop. And this year, actually today, I think it's running right now. We started off with the book club. So one of the heat is offering the book club like weekly Monday meeting. We're meeting virtual today, but hopefully if we feel all comfortable, we're going to meet in the library and continue the book club. We're going to talk about, it's a very healthy relationship discussion based on the novel that you guys are going to read. So that's kind of cozy, gathering, low-key things that you can do. We also do weekly Wellness Wednesday and toward the end of the day, like 4 to 5 o'clock-ish, every week we have a different wellness topic that we're going to talk about. That's where somewhere you can come and hang out and just listen to good information about wellness. So, and throughout the quarter, we will be planning as we go to provide more information and fun activity for everybody. So just keep eyes on like Newsline or Dhub event, and you will see a lot of different things happening around the campus.
That's great. And I would add to that, there's constantly things being added to the calendar. So it's definitely something like if you check today, go back and check later on. Sarah mentioned Dhub. I was going to share a little bit about it. Dhub is our DePaul engagement hub. Excuse me. And one of the questions I frequently will get asked is like, we're in winter quarter. Is it too late to get involved? The answer will always be no. Until you graduate, it is never too late to get involved. And like part of the reason we talk about getting involved is because it really gives you that opportunity to, find a community, find other people with like interests, and really get connected. So Dhub is a great place to start if you want to, just do some exploration and see what is out there. If Dhub is overwhelming to you, we also have a resource called the Involvement Calculator, which you can fill out at go.depaul.edu/get involved. There, you'll tell us what your interests are, and we'll create a customized report for you that says, hey, check these out. Like, check these out. Here's when they meet. Here's who you need to know. And we're always happy to have those one-on-one conversations as well. And then I would just share, I know we've been mentioning a lot that if you have any questions, reach out. We have campus, I think it's campus rec at DePaul.edu, HPW at DePaul.edu, DOS. We've got all the @edus, right? But if you can't remember all of those and you're looking to connect, we're happy to be your first point of contact too in OSI. And you can always reach out to us at involvement@DePaul.edu, either for anything that I'm talking about, or if you just have questions that anybody else has brought up, you can reach out there too, and we're happy to connect you. So panelists, any final thoughts, questions, recommendations? Leslie, I don't know if you had more. I didn't want to cut you off if you had other resources you wanted to share. I know you talked a little bit about how DOS can assist at the beginning as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say really to encourage students, if you're feeling a little lost at DePaul, I recognize that DePaul is a very large institution. I like to help DePaul feel like a smaller institution. So if you're really having a hard time, you need support, feel free to connect with our office. Feel free to reach out to me. We'd be glad to, meet with you, get you connected to resources. You're never a bother. It's a joy to meet with students. So please do reach out if you have any concerns. If we're not the right office, we at least can help direct you to the correct one. So it's never a problem for you to make outreach.
Great. Well, panelists, any final thoughts as we sign off here? Stay warm, everybody, right? Get that coat, get those boots, stay warm. And, part of the reason why we do all of these sessions is really because we try to live and bring our Take Care DePaul message to life, which, says three things. Take care of yourself so you can take care of each other and you can take care of DePaul then, right? So that starts with you, though. It's important for you to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. You're filling your cups and give back to others. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you to our panelists. I think this was a spectacular discussion. Really appreciate you all being here. Students, as always, if there's anything that we can be doing to better serve you, do not hesitate to let us know. But we will see you all soon. Bye-bye, Blue Demons.